Good morning, ACC. We start with a look at Charlottesville. The Cavs, 7 games into the season, the quarterback situation still a mess. Phillip Sims expected to start today against Wake Forest. This one's on the ACC Network, 12:30 kickoff. Check your local listings. And in 1 hour, at Death Valley, Virginia Tech and Clemson, a rematch of last year's ACC title game. This one's on ABC. ACC Kickoff Live starts, wait for it, now.
That's one of the big games you're here at Florida State for. I mean, that's always just one of the great rivalries in college football.
In the Sunshine State, today is the big one, Florida State versus Miami. But the Canes might need a cane for Stephen Morris. Can Miami win if he's not at 100% or worse, not in the lineup at all?
Taj Boyd going downfield. He's got the fellow open. The freshman Watkins takes it in.
Virginia Tech and Clemson have not forgotten their battle for the ACC Championship last December. Both teams feel like this is a must-win to get back to the title game.
I'm proud to be able to look back on it now and say that I helped open those doors and level that playing field.
And we talked to a former ACC star who changed the conference forever. Every ACC team is better today because of what Darrell Hill did for the Terps a half-century ago. This is ACC Kickoff Live.
Open at the 10, at the 5. Touchdown.
It is 11 a.m. Saturday morning, time for ACC Kickoff Live. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff Fischel with former Georgia Tech and NFL running back Dorsey Levens and 4-year starting quarterback at Wake Forest Riley Skinner. We're 8 weeks into the season, and gentlemen, there are 8 teams that still think they've got a shot at an ACC title. It is crazy time right now in the conference.
It's crazy that it's that jumbled, but it's this time of the season where we start to see teams either start playing their best football or start to crumble when we get to late October and November. And right now, in my opinion, North Carolina, Clemson, and surprise, surprise, Maryland, they're all playing some good football right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the Atlantic and the Coastal are both packed together like a can of sardines, trying to find out who today is going to separate themselves from everybody else. Last week, the word of the day was parity. Today, it's clarity. Let's find out who's going to separate themselves from everybody else.
We may have Dorsey write the show in rhyme. So that was great stuff. All right, here's the look at the conference. The standings crazy. Just one team undefeated in conference. That's Maryland at 2-0. NC State, Florida State, Clemson, all circling the Terps like vultures in the Atlantic. In the Coastal, Miami, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and Duke, all with one conference loss. Remember, the Tar Heels cannot go to the conference title game or a bowl game because of sanctions. Today's the first Saturday with a full plate of conference games. Fourth member of our team. Every week we talk to Kelly Nash, K-Nash Sports, joins us now. I know Miami, Kelly, honoring the 1987 team. That's 25 years since that national title. Kelly, the Canes face the Noles. Miami fans want to know, will Stephen Morris play?
He actually could play today after spraining his ankle last week against the Tar Heels. He was able to practice on Wednesday. Reporters say he actually looked pretty good. Coach Golden, though, says his ankle is still really swollen, and he is listed as a game-time decision. Now, moving up to Charlottesville, 2 Virginia swimmers will be showing off their brand-new Olympic gold medals today at Fan Fest. Lauren Perdue and, of course, Matt McLean will be meeting fans, signing autographs prior to kickoff. Now to Clemson, where a different kind of American hero will be front and center. Clemson walk-on wide receiver Daniel Rodriguez will be running down the hill with the Tigers today, carrying the American red flag to honor Military Appreciation Day. Now remember, guys, he's the Army veteran who earned that Purple Heart during tours in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Kelly, thanks. We will definitely have more on Daniel Rodriguez, his incredible story, and his incredible path to Clemson coming up later in the show. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at the ACCDN. Remember, at the ACC Digital Network, great highlights, great interviews, all of it for you, both at YouTube and on the ACC website. Now it's time to take a look for the Saturday menu, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Dorsey, a rematch of last year's title game, Virginia Tech at Clemson.
Yeah, Virginia Tech scored 41 unanswered last week against Duke. Finally got their offense on track, but they're playing against one of the most potent offenses in the country in Clemson.
Riley, Wake Forest visits Virginia.
These are two teams who desperately need a win in the conference, and right now, Wake has got to find a go-to receiver for Tanner Price. They've had the injury bug at the position, and that's a big key for them to try to get a win against Virginia.
Dorsey, Georgia Tech, your alma mater, hosts Boston College.
Riley, talking about some teams who need some wins in the ACC. BC 0-3, Georgia Tech 1-3 in the ACC. Let's see which team starts to dig their way out of the basement.
NC State's first game since the Florida State upset at the 2-0 Terps.
Well, State's passing offense is going to be the decider in this game, going against the very potent Maryland defense. State has not won on the road in an Atlantic Division game since 2005.
Big rivalry, North Carolina and Duke.
After Duke started out 20-0 against Virginia Tech last week, they fell apart in the second half, and that doesn't bode well because North Carolina's run offense is incredible.
Another physical team for sure. And the other grudge match today, Florida State and Miami. You know the history. Wide right 2, wide right 3, wide left, wide right 4. This year, another game with huge implications. The loser has a second conference loss, making it very hard to get to the ACC title game. The coaches know how much this one really means to the players.
That's one of the big games you're here at Florida State for. I mean, that's always just one of the great rivalries in college football. And a lot of history, a lot of tradition. Means a lot to the people here, means a lot to the players that played here. And it's always a great game.
They're ahead of us right now. I recognize that. I hope we all recognize that. Now it's our job to respond, and whatever that means for the entire organization, starting with me, we have to respond. And obviously we have an opportunity to do that Saturday night.
They're going to have to do it, Riley, without Stephen Morris. The sprained ankle likely means he's not going to play tonight. Doubtful for tonight's game against Florida State. Ryan Williams, welcome to the jungle, facing one of the best defenses in the country.
Well, this is a game changer for Miami. I think Miami's passing attack was going to be their one way to stay in this game and have a chance to beat Florida State. Ryan Williams got to come in and back up duty and be a game manager. At 6'6", 230 pounds, I think he'll be able to manage some of the blows from that defensive line. But look, I mean, they're going to have to lean on with him coming in to Duke Johnson and Mike James. And against Florida State's run defense, I don't see anybody running on Florida State right now. So good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, Ryan Williams.
Now, as for Florida State, Dorsey, we know they got criticized some for apparently going to sleep in the second half against NC State. It cost them. Against BC, they played much better last week. 60 minutes of football. I think they've learned their lesson.
I think they have. I think the key for Florida State is to keep your foot on the gas. You can't let up at any point in time, no matter who you're playing, because right now you have to impress, especially when it comes to BCS standings. I think at the end of the day, when the BCS standings finally unfold at the end of the year, everybody's going to have one loss, and if Florida State wants to put their name in the hat for a BCS championship, they got to impress from here on out.
And, of course, they've got to make their way to the title game. Let's hop into the not-so-way-back machine to last year's title game last December. Clemson, Virginia Tech. Clemson scored 3 touchdowns in a 4.5-minute span in the third quarter, blew the game wide open. Final score, Tigers 38, Hokies 10. Taj Boyd was named the player of the game, throwing for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns, running for another. Hokies linebacker Bruce Taylor still has a bad taste in his mouth, but this game this year is so important, that's plenty of motivation.
It's not a thing of vengeance. It's just they're our next opponent. They're in the way, and we have to try and stop them.
They're very talented, very smart, and they make you take the small plays and don't really give you the big plays downfield.
We just gotta keep, harping on the fundamentals as far as ball security, and making plays after the catch.
I think any time you go into a game against a team of this caliber, and if you can win it, it makes a great statement about your program.
In that ACC title game, Clemson's defense really shut down ACC Player of the Year David Wilson. This year, this Clemson defense now facing a Hokies offense that may have found a running game. Riley, Dorsey, let's talk about the running game with you. J.C. Coleman looked good last week.
He really did. He had a very good game. 13 carries, 183 yards, and 2 long touchdown runs. Now, we know Virginia Tech has struggled this year in the run game, had some offensive line issues, a bunch of new guys starting the season out. Then they had some injuries. When this running game is going, Frank Beamer's team looks completely different. You see, when the running game is not going, they struggle offensively. Last week, when the run game picked up, Logan Thomas also picked up as well with Marcus Davis in the passing game. So I think they need that run game to play well, because that's the way Frank Beamer's teams are built.
Well, J.C. Coleman definitely surprised a lot of people. But if I'm Clemson, you look at Virginia Tech, you find their number one playmaker Because they don't, in my opinion, I don't think they have too many. Marcus Davis on the outside and J.C. Coleman running back. But you attack their number one playmaker, and that's Logan Thomas. They go to a crippled Virginia Tech offensive line. They just lost their starting center, Andrew Miller. That's a huge blow. So if I'm Brent Venables, I'm trying to dial up every defense, blitz, twist, stunt, try to get into the backfield, disrupt Logan Thomas and stop that rushing attack with J.C. Coleman. Because if they can do that, I think Clemson's going to be able to put up a lot of points.
That Clemson defense, by the way, that's not a strength of this team. Just 7 sacks so far this season. Now, Clemson beat Virginia Tech last October and again for the title, so this actually could be the Tigers' 3rd win over the Hokies in about 12 months.
Clemson and Florida State didn't get any love from the computers in the first BCS poll. Is the lack of respect for the ACC fair? Dorsey and Riley go toe-to-toe.
It's Duke, it's Carolina, it's special, man.
It's the greatest rivalry in college basketball. But what's it mean for football? It's actually a huge game for both Duke and North Carolina.
I can't carry Jackie Robinson's shoelace. Are you kidding me?
And Maryland honors a school legend who's been called the Jackie Robinson of Southern college football.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side we build. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
I'm Jeff Fischel with another ACC Now and Then brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. True freshman Stephon Diggs showed why he's on his way to a record-setting career at Maryland, taking the opening kickoff last Saturday 100 yards for a score. Another Terp, Boomer Esiason, set 17 school records before becoming the most prolific left-handed quarterback in NFL history. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner, only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, video, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh,
Hello?
yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
Can't blame any Maryland players for having nightmares this week. Last November, the Terps led North Carolina State 41-14 in the second half. From there, NC State scored 42 straight points. Final 56-41 Wolfpack. It was the greatest comeback in school history and the second greatest in ACC history. And Mike Glennon tied the school record with 5 touchdown passes. This time around, so much at stake. Maryland leading the Atlantic, NC State right behind with just 1 conference loss. Welcome back to ACC Kickoff Live with Dorsey Levens and Riley Skinner. I'm Jeff Fischel. Riley, that Maryland defense so good, but we saw what Mike Glennon did in the second half against the Florida State defense. Pretty good reason to think he could potentially do the same thing to this Maryland defense as well.
Well, he could, but there's one person. Brian Stewart, defensive coordinator for Maryland. Hats off to him. Last year, they were giving up almost 460 yards a game. This year, 261 a game. And right now, NC State's offensive line has given up 17 sacks. So I think it's going to come down to this defensive line or front 7 to disrupt Mike Glennon. They don't really have much of a dominating running game. Mike Glenn is not a very mobile quarterback, so you try to get in the backfield, get in his lap, and try to stop that passing offense, because that's the one thing that leads this North Carolina State team is their passing offense and Mike Glennon.
Now, NC State had a bye last week. That's after pulling off that upset against Florida State 2 weeks ago. Dorsey, does the week off cost them any momentum, any confidence?
I think it will, just a little bit. I mean, they did win a big game last week against number 3 Florida State, so the confidence is sky high, but they kind of cool off a little bit. You know, you got this whole week to kind of feel yourself and pat yourself on the back, but now you got to play this week. So I think they do lose a little bit of confidence and momentum coming into this game, but they need to get back on track. They played well in the second half against a great Florida State defense last week, and like Riley said, Maryland's defense is really tough. He's going to have to perform like that again this week if they want to win.
Now, if NC State wins, by the end of the day, there could be 4 teams in the Atlantic with 1 loss. That 27-point comeback last year, it evened the all-time series, which goes back to 1909, when NC State was called North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts. I looked it up. Bet you didn't know that. 32 wins apiece, 4 ties. NC State's best streak in the series, 8 in a row, from 1963 to 1970. A man who played for Maryland in 1963, Darrell Hill. Darrell, you're being honored during the NC State-Maryland game for becoming the first African-American football player to play in the ACC. When you think back about everything you and your family went through back in those days, what does it mean for you to be honored?
Well, the honor is kind of special now because I know historically what it's meant for sports and what it meant for young African-American athletes, especially down in the South. At the time that it was happening, I'm not so sure I had my arms around it as tightly as I do now. But at the time, if you lived in Georgia or North Carolina or Mississippi and you were an athlete, you couldn't stay home and play for Georgia Tech or NC State or University of Mississippi. So you had to travel out of state to play, or you had to stay home and play for a small black university. Obviously, that wasn't a level playing field. And so I'm proud to be able to look back on it now and say that I helped open those doors and level that playing field.
In case fans don't really have a sense of what it was like in 1963, I know you had games at South Carolina, at Clemson. Those schools said they wouldn't even play Maryland because there was a black football player on the team. Take me back to those games. What was it like for you?
Well, when we first started at Maryland and Maryland first announced to the ACC that they were going to offer a football scholarship to a black player, all hell broke loose. That wasn't a popular thing at the time. As a matter of fact, Maryland was told that they were breaking ACC conference rule. And one of the coaches, Lee Corso, was my coach, who's on ESPN now, said, look, where's that written? And they kind of said, well, you know, it's not written. It's a gentleman's agreement. And Corso said, well, that doesn't sound very gentlemanly to me. But so Clemson and South Carolina, who were the 2 most southernmost schools, of course, were the most obstinate. At those times, blacks weren't even allowed to watch the games at those stadiums, more or less attend the game. So going there to play down in South Carolina was a challenge. And it was kind of scary, you know, at times. I can remember South Carolina was the first team we played, and it was raining and a night game. So people had been out on the parking lot drinking all day, waiting to see this black boy come who dared to come into their stadium. The fans were the problem, not so much the players. The fans football was God in the South. College football was God. There was no professional football. There was no Bucks, no Atlanta Falcons, no Tennessee Titans. So the southernmost team in the NFL was the Redskins. So Clemson University, South Carolina University, Georgia Tech, those were the gods of football that the fans worshipped at that time.
And I know, sorry, Darrell, I know when you played at Clemson, they weren't going to let your mother into the stadium, right, to watch the game?
She tended to go to all of the games. My father had a trucking business, and Saturday was typically payday, and he couldn't leave to travel out of town to go to the games. So she went to these games by herself or with my little brother. And we had gotten their agreement, do not come to Clemson. Well, I'm warming up for the game, and one of the managers comes and takes me to a side gate, and there she is standing out there with a ticket, and they wouldn't admit her to the stadium. So I turned around and said, well, told the coach, I went back in the locker room and said, I'm going to get dressed. I have to go attend to my mother, get her out of this very volatile, dangerous situation. She's out there alone. And when I returned, somehow the president, James Edwards of Clemson University, had wound up down there where she was and found her and assured me that she would be, looked after, and he was taking her to his personal booth. So then I went back in the game and played the game and set an ACC pass record because I was kind of mad about it. So.
Well, I'm glad it all turned out well that day. But in all those years, all those challenges, did you ever lose your cool?
No, not really, because I always felt that people who had bias problems, they had the problem, not me. I more or less kind of felt sorry for them in a certain way. I said, I sure wouldn't like to walk around with this burden of hate on my shoulders. What for? It's just a nuisance. And I think people were glad when it was over,
For sure. Some people have called you the Jackie Robinson of Southern college football. How does that feel? Does that name fit you okay?
That name doesn't fit me at all. I can't carry Jackie Robinson's shoelace. Are you kidding me? He was a great man, a great hero. To be spoken of in the same breath is more than I can accept. I mean, that's way beyond where what I did. Corso at one point had pointed out, he said, well, your job, when he was trying to convince me to go to Maryland, and I was backing off. I didn't want to go because I just didn't want to be under a microscope. I just wanted to go to college and kind of have fun like everybody else. He said, yeah, but you're the guy, He just said, look at this. He said, all due respect to Jackie Robinson, he played baseball, mostly in northern cities. He said, you're going to be playing a full contact sport in the deep South. He said, that's a challenge. So that got me, that finally said, okay, doggone it, I'm going to do this, because he was trying to say, like, yeah, you're scared, you don't want to do it, He knew the right buttons to push.
I'd say so. Darrell Hill, it's great talking to you. Love hearing these stories of everything you went through and how you really succeeded despite it all. You will be honored. At the end of the first quarter between Maryland and NC State, a great honor, the first African-American football player in ACC history. Darrell, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Dorsey, it strikes me a generation later you're playing in the South, playing for Georgia Tech, and it's amazing how things have changed.
It really has. I mean, he talks about where, racial inequality was prevalent and how courageous he was to go on the football field, amongst all the hatred and his mom not getting in the game. I really think he's selling himself short when he talks about Jackie Robinson, because what he did in the South laid the path for all of us, me and everybody who looks like me who plays in the ACC. So I think what he did was absolutely remarkable.
I mean, it's irreplaceable what he did for the landscape of the ACC. Just the boldness that he had and the courage to go and accept that challenge. And I think the biggest thing that what he did, you give hope and aspiration to young African-American kids growing up that they could be like him. They had a chance to go and play in one of the best conferences in the country. So somebody like that, I mean, irreplaceable, and what a pleasure to hear that.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, 1963 he was the only African-American football player in the ACC. Now about 60 or 65% of the football and basketball players in the ACC are African-American. Boy, the times they have been a-changin'. One thing that hasn't changed, though, the heated rivalry between Duke and North Carolina. They can't even agree on how many games each school has won in the rivalry. But we do know this. Today's matchup is one of the most interesting we've seen in years. Good job, guys.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
I'm Jeff Fischel with another ACC Now and Then brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. True freshman Stephon Diggs showed why he's on his way to a record-setting career at Maryland, taking the opening kickoff last Saturday 100 yards for a score. Another Terp, Boomer Esiason, set 17 school records before becoming the most prolific left-handed quarterback in NFL history. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
The ACC Digital Network, the ultimate video destination for ACC fans. Exclusive highlights, live streaming games, and original live programming, unique access to the student athletes of our time and the legendary voices of all time. Defining moments, personal stories, incredible analysis from authentic ACC sources, cutting-edge content from the leaders in the digital space. The ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday.
Where does a great night out get even better? At the new Ruby Tuesday with our steak and lobster dinner for only $14.99. We've combined sweet lobster, steakhouse sirloin, and our free garden bar. Hurry in. This perfect pairing ends soon. The new Ruby Tuesday.
He'll try to step back with 1 second. Let's fly! Got it! The Blue Devils win it over North Carolina, 85-84. Oh my gosh! I do not believe this.
It's not just basketball season just yet. We're getting there, but there is reason to be fired up if you're a UNC Duke fan. We know the rivalry's so big. Today, it's big for football. Both teams come in with 5 wins. If Florida State beats Miami, the Blue Devils Tar Heels winners in first place in the Coastal. For Duke, it's another shot to be bowl eligible. They had a shot last week, built a 20-0 lead against Virginia Tech in the first quarter, but lost 41-20. Riley, for Duke, any lessons learned from that week, that game, or just forget about it, move on?
Well, I don't think you forget about it. There's a lot to be learned from that. But if I'm David Cutcliffe, I'm telling my players, look, let's focus on the positives. We were up 20 on the road at one of the most hostile environments against Virginia Tech, and you just can't let one single play essentially turn the game around. And you see right here, this interception, I've never seen a game change turn that quickly off of one play. So what they've got to do is just look and say, look, we're a resilient team. This isn't the Duke football of past. We're a team that can beat every team that we play every week. So they've just got to have a confidence and just completely forget about the negatives of last week, focus on the positives, and try to bounce back.
Virginia Tech was physical. We know UNC is going to do the same today.
Absolutely. And, what's interesting to me is that draft experts Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay both say that North Carolina has the #1 ranked offensive line in college football, which doesn't bode well for Duke because they also have this running back named Gio Bernard, who's rushed for 439 yards and 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. So Duke's got their work cut out for him trying to stop this run.
All-time, North Carolina leads the series 56-35-4, and there's a big asterisk. I want to get this right. They both claimed they won in 1889 because they both thought they had a home game. Neither school traveled to the other. They both say they won by forfeit. It's just one of the great rivalries in ACC history. Another one today, Florida State and Miami. Who can forget all the wide rights and a wide left? The Hurricanes lead the series all-time 31-25. Virginia Tech and Virginia battle for the Commonwealth Cup. The Hokies lead that all-time series 51-37-5. But the Cup is pretty new. Virginia Tech has won the Cup 11 out of 14 times. At 93 games, this one is the longest series for the Hokies and the second longest for the Cavaliers after the 116-game series they have with North Carolina, known as the South's oldest rivalry. The Cavs and Tar Heels played their first time in 1892, over 60 years before the formation of the ACC. It's the 4th most played rivalry game among BCS schools. They've played 5 more times than even Army and Navy. Finally, how about a good old Tobacco Road rivalry? North Carolina and NC State, the first game in 1894, Chapel Hill, with Tar Heels winning 44-0. UNC holds a 63-32-6 overall lead in that series, although State has won the last 5. That one's next week, by the way. Time now for our Ruby Tuesday Fresh Perspective. Dorsey, Georgia Tech, you guys had a big rival. Georgia, it's been called, clean old-fashioned hate, right?
Right.
What's it take for two schools to have a rivalry?
I think there are 3 things that form a rivalry. I think the first thing is you have to be in close proximity to each other. I think it's a regional thing. I think the second thing is that there has to be a mutual dislike for both teams. There has to be almost some hate. You got to not like the guys.
It's apparently clean.
Clean hate. Unless you're on the pile and you're on the bottom and nobody can see it, then all bets are off. And I think the third thing is that it has to be a rivalry for both teams. I think sometimes the rivalries are one-sided, whereas one team thinks it's a rivalry and the other team doesn't believe it's a rivalry because they kick the other team's butt all the time. So I think for it to be a true rivalry, both teams have to think it's a rivalry.
I hate to say it, but I think we were in that bucket at Wake Forest. We thought North Carolina kind of was our rival. I don't know if they had the same thoughts about the Demon Deacs. But like you were saying, with the close in proximity, that's what makes these rivalries so good. But to me, it's the fans. I mean, a true rivalry is fans that – I don't know what clean hate is. I don't know how you find it, clean hate. But when the fans just genuinely do not like you and each other, and it lasts – for the next year till you play, that's a rivalry. And when you come into these games, you literally throw records out the window. I mean, Miami, they're struggling. Florida State, they're playing well. They're kind of on two different paths, but this game means the same every year no matter what they're doing before they come into this game.
One of the great things about that rivalry tonight, Miami and Florida State, is that so many Florida State players are from the Miami area. It gets them a chance to come home and show off their stuff against the Canes. Let us know what you think. What is the best rivalry in the ACC? Tweet us at the ACCDN. Let us know. We can talk about it. We can argue about it as long as it's clean, old-fashioned. Hey, there's one thing Florida State and Clemson can't agree on. They're not fans of the BCS right now. The first standings are out. The Noles and Tigers aren't getting much respect. Our candidates debate whether the BCS has it right or wrong. Plus, a war hero is now home to chase his dream of being a football hero. And today, with tens of thousands roaring, Daniel Rodriguez will be the first onto the field, leading Clemson into battle.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side rebuild. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance Event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance Event.
I'm Jeff Fischel with another ACC Now and Then brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. True freshman Stephon Diggs showed why he's on his way to a record-setting career at Maryland, taking the opening kickoff last Saturday 100 yards for a score. Another Terp, Boomer Esiason, set 17 school records before becoming the most prolific left-handed quarterback in NFL history. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner only $14.99 for a limited time.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh,
Hello?
Yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
For more on the 8th weekend of Atlantic Coast Conference football, tune in to the ACC Blitz, powered by Ram. Host Tom Wormy and the coach, Tommy Bowden, will break down a great slate of ACC games and the resurgent running attack in North Carolina, powered by Giovanni Bernard. So tune in at noon to the ACC Blitz, powered by Ram. Check local listings for the station in your area. Clemson going for a 3rd straight win against Virginia Tech. Those 2 wins broke a long dry spell for the Tigers. Before last year, they hadn't beaten Virginia Tech since 1989. That streak included the 2001 Gator Bowl. Overall, Clemson leads the series 19-12 with 1 tie. Well, today at Death Valley, it's Military Appreciation Day. No team has a better reminder of the great work U.S. servicemen and women do every day around the world than Clemson. Daniel Rodriguez joined the team as a walk-on wide receiver this season. That's after serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and earning a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for valor. Today, he will lead the Tigers down the hill, and he'll do it carrying the American flag. After what he's seen in war, football is child's play.
we're just sitting out there after a firefight, you know, your adrenaline's coming down, and it's just like one of those things, just like, this is it, man. Like, I'm 21 years old. I'm not doing this for the rest of my life, you know? And Thompson was just like, I'm not gonna stay in either. He's like, I'm gonna go out and do what I wanted to do beforehand. And I was like, you know what, I should just follow my heart and try to play sports, collegiately. I had been getting in really good shape, and I was like, I'm gonna walk on, I'm gonna use my GI Bill and try to walk on and play college football. And he's like, do it, man. I was like, no, I really am. He's like, well, don't sit here and blow smoke at me, do it. And I was like, I promise you I'll do it. And so I promised him, we promised each other that we were gonna follow our dreams, and mine was to play college football when I got out, and he died a week later. I woke up at like 5 a.m. and just went down and used the computer, and like 30 minutes into using the computer, it's like incoming, like pow, rocket hits, pow, another rocket. And then the next thing I know is just muzzle flash all in the mount. Like I'm just looking up and there's just muzzle flash, and I'm like dodging, like just running back and forth. And since we're at the bottom, like, it just looked like popcorn, like just popping everywhere. I was getting hit in the leg with rocks from the bullets. As soon as I get to the top to my fighting position, I just get on the machine gun, and Thompson's coming out. We made eye contact, just like, he was like, holy crap, this is real. We're getting hit pretty hard. And he came out around me, and he's like pointing at RPG Rock where some Taliban guys are coming down. I just remember like looking at him, pointing, and then boom, just his knees buckle. I could see his weapon drop, and he's done. I mean, he got hit. He was dead before he hit the ground. He fell right by my feet. So I just unloaded. I just started spraying at all those guys. And then once I ran out of ammo, like I ran in, I was like, hey, Thompson's hit. I'm like trying to drag his body in. But I couldn't. I was just getting hit with RPGs. I got shrapnel on my legs, trying to pull his body in. And I got hit again in the neck. And then finally, I couldn't even move him. You just couldn't do anything about it. Couldn't do nothing for him. He was already dead. So it was at that point, it was just survival. It was kill or be killed. So I had to just keep going and keep fighting. Anything that had a bullet shot out of it, I shot it. Everything. Claymores were trying to set off. I couldn't get over the fact that they killed my best friend. I didn't give a crap at that point. I didn't care. I didn't care what happened to me. I didn't care. I was just gonna go out there and fight. And, it wasn't my day. It wasn't my day to go. It hits you. It hits me, just kind of like, my friends are underneath my feet, You're walking on top of heroes, Everybody wants to call me a hero, or, the guy, I'm not a hero. The guys that died are heroes. I was just doing my job. And when I get to Arlington, it's just like, that's where heroes are resting at. And it sucks that some of them are my friends. This is why I do what I do. This is why my mentality is the way it is, because it's like, if I fall short of things I set out to do, it's Taliban wins. So everything I do is for these boys. I don't ever take my bracelet off. It's got all their names on it in the day they were killed. I'm always gonna have them with me. So I think that first game, if I get that opportunity to run down that hill at Clemson, man, they're gonna be taped up on my wrist. So I'm gonna have them out there with me and share it with them.
Incredible story. And guys, impact guys like that have on a team. How important is it? Maybe not stars, but leaders for a team.
I think in a situation like that, it keeps everything in perspective. That, we talk about doing battle on the football field and going to war on the football field, but that's just an expression. It's not true to life. What he went through is real life war and battle. I think that's a true inspiration, that he was actually risking his life on the battlefield for his country. It just puts everything in perspective.
I still have chill bumps after listening to that. That's incredible. And like Dorsey, you were saying, what it does is it puts a game of football in perspective. And I think when you have somebody like that who can rally the troops, especially after a loss or something where people may think life's over. Well, compared to what he's been through, this is nothing. And I had a similar story with John Abadi, our linebacker at Wake Forest. He lost his brother, not in battle, but in a car accident. He was very close to our team. And that year, he came back playing for his brother. And what it did to the chemistry, to the family, to the locker room, really to the entire community of Wake Forest, I mean, you can't describe it in words. And I wish every team could have somebody like that.
And to tell you how much this Clemson team really appreciates having Daniel Rodriguez on the roster, we're getting reports that both Dabo Swinney and the rest of his coaching staff will be wearing camouflage today in honor of Daniel Rodriguez. It is Military Appreciation Day at Death Valley. A great story we will be following all day here on the ACC Digital Network. The first BCS standings aren't always a good predictor. Last year, the first time since the ACC's gone to divisions that an ACC team ranked in the top 10 in the first BCS poll has gone on to win the conference. Twice the champ wasn't even ranked, including that 2006 Wake Forest team led by a freshman quarterback, Riley Skinner.
How about him? Little Deke love, I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again, in the great tradition of Lincoln and Douglas, Tyson and Holyfield, SpongeBob and Patrick. Welcome to the third of 5 ACC Kickoff Live debates. Let's welcome in the candidates once again. Candidate Levins, Candidate Skinner, thank you both for joining us again. Today's debate, the new BCS rankings, Florida State only at number 14, Clemson at 19. So the question I'd like you to both answer, BCS or just leave out the C? I'll put it that way. Candidate Levins, your 30 seconds, please.
Unfortunately, I think they are right where they need to be. You know, when you look at the strength of schedule in the other conferences, the SEC have 4 teams in the top 7. The Pac-12, 3 teams in the top 10. The Big 12, 2 teams in the top 10. And the Big East has 3 teams. And we've struggled against the SEC and the Big East this year. I wish the ACC was, the ACC was like the SEC and we had number 1 and number 2 in the country. Unfortunately, because of the way we've played and the games that we've lost, I think this is where we should be.
I agree, but I don't agree, because you have to look at the teams themselves. I understand the conference is struggling, but look at the teams themselves of Florida State and Clemson. Clemson's only loss is to Florida State, and I understand that hurts when you have a team that then just lost to NC State. But look, you've got a West Virginia team, okay? They're in front of Clemson and Florida State. West Virginia got blown away by Texas Tech. I mean, blown away. They're 112th in the country on defense, and the only teams they've beat are Texas. Texas has one of the worst defenses in the country as well. I just don't understand how you can look at it and say, okay, a West Virginia is better than a Florida State and a Clemson. It doesn't make sense to me. When you look at the caliber of players, Florida State was number 4 in the country at one point. I don't see how you can justify that they drop all the way that far. It just does not make sense when you look at it on a team-by-team basis, not a conference.
West Virginia is in the Big 12, right? They have 7 teams in the top 25 in the BCS.
But they haven't played them. Oh, they've played Texas.
But the conference is stronger. They have all those teams that are in the top 25, but we only have 2. I wish we had more, but we only have 2. The facts are what they are. I can wish that they would change, and I can wish that Georgia Tech was in the top 5 of the BCS and Wake Forest is number 6, but unfortunately it just hasn't worked out that way.
We got to drug test you if that was the
Candidate Skinner, I don't want to bring up a painful memory for the ACC from last season. I realize it is last season, not this season, but let's not forget West Virginia put up a pretty large number against Clemson.
That was
Very good point.
That was last year.
70.
We don't need to talk about that. That was last year. Don't live in the past. Look forward. Let me paint a scenario for you.
Don't live in the past. You just said Florida State was ranked number 4. Was.
That's right. All they had was one bad second half. You're going to penalize them that far to
Is that the
drop
past,
them
though? Was that before?
Yeah, that's just the past.
Okay.
But let's look
All right,
forward. Let me paint a scenario for you.
Please.
Okay. So they say that Florida State has no even, they're not even the conversation of the national championship. Let me paint a picture. Say South Carolina beats Florida today.
Okay.
So that's 1 loss for Florida, 1 loss South Carolina.
Good math.
Then, at the end of the season, let's say Clemson beats South Carolina, Florida State beats Florida. Florida and South Carolina have 2 losses. Clemson and Florida State have 1. You're going to tell me that they can't be in contention or in a conversation above those 2 teams with 2 losses, and they beat them head-to-head?
It goes back to strength of schedule and how strong the SEC is. At the end of the day, like I said, the SEC, 4 teams in the top 7, number 1 and number 2 in the country in Alabama and Florida. They're the strongest conference in the country, bar none. It's not even close.
But I'm
not
talking
even
about
close.
rankings today. They haven't played Alabama. They haven't played those teams. It doesn't matter what the other teams of the conference are doing right now if they haven't even played them.
All right, so late November, we'll discuss this again.
I can't wait for a playoff, long story short.
You brought up the potential wins for the ACC. Clemson over South Carolina, Florida State over Florida at the end of the season. Candidate Levens, at the end of the season, if we see these teams run the table, you're saying the computers are not impressed right now. At the end of the season, if both these schools run the table, does the ACC get 2 BCS bids?
I would think so, especially if South Carolina and Florida run the table as well, because they run the table in the strongest conference in the country. If they can beat those two teams, we deserve to be in the BCS conversation.
Come in and whoop them at the end of the season.
I hope so.
I think unfortunately, I never really was a big fan of the playoffs, but right now I think so. After seeing this and the way you say the computers, I don't give a rip what the computers say, because if you put a Florida State against South Carolina, I give it 50-50. I think they win, half the time.
Gentlemen, it won't be settled right now. I know that. Thank you both for your time once again. And no matter which side you're on, go out and vote. All right. And Kelly Nash, what are the fans telling you on Twitter and Facebook about the ACC and the BCS?
Well, fans are actually mildly amused, and that's putting it lightly. But Jeff, I firstly have to ask you, did you really bring up that Orange Bowl loss from last season? Really?
Truth be told, we should let everyone in on a little secret that Kelly spent some time at Clemson.
A little bit.
And if there's one thing that hurts her more than anything else, is bringing up the Orange Bowl.
Right here.
And it's brought up quite a bit around here.
So we asked fans on Facebook.com/the ACC, what do they think of these initial BCS rankings? I have a feeling these results will not surprise you. Should number 14 Florida State and number 19 Clemson be ranked higher in the BCS standings? Of course, over 74% said yes. And you know what, guys? I never do it this early in the show. This is unprecedented. But Riley, you agree with the fans. I agree with you. So I'm going to give you my fist bump today. Bam!
Bam, right there. Oh, look at the tally, too.
Tie it up.
Riley ties it up today.
It's a nice graphic. I like that.
Attaboy.
I listen, because I jumped on the West Virginia 70-point bandwagon.
Yeah,
that's all good.
There's some bitterness there, I think. Kelly, thank you. Hey, if you're watching at home, what would you like to see Dorsey and Riley debate about? Tweet us ideas at the ACCDN. Otherwise, we may have to debate over whether the Federal Reserve's quantitative easing and whether a new flood of money for financial institutions is really good for Wall Street or Main Street.
That might be a short debate.
I have no idea what I just said.
I don't know what you said either. Where's my dick?
Can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps.
I'm Jeff Fischel with another ACC Now and Then brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. True freshman Stephon Diggs showed why he's on his way to a record-setting career at Maryland, taking the opening kickoff last Saturday 100 yards for a score. Another Terp, Boomer Esiason, set 17 school records before becoming the most prolific left-handed quarterback in NFL history.
Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner only $14.99 for a limited time.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
The ACC Digital Network, the ultimate video destination for ACC fans. Exclusive highlights, live streaming games, and original live programming, unique access to the student athletes of our time and the legendary voices of all time. Defining moments, personal stories, incredible analysis from authentic ACC sources, cutting-edge content from the leaders in the digital space. The ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday.
Where does a great night out get even better? At the new Ruby Tuesday with our steak and lobster dinner for only $14.99. We've combined sweet lobster, steakhouse sirloin, and our free garden bar. Hurry in. This perfect pairing ends soon. The new Ruby Tuesday.
Wake Forest Josh Harris in Charlottesville, the team. It's a homecoming for Demon Deacons head coach Jim Grobe. He's a Virginia grad, class of 75, and he was a graduate assistant there as well. Game time 12:30. Watch it on the ACC network. Tim Brandt and Dave Archer will call all the action. They have a preview.
It's a gorgeous day in Albemarle County. It is spectacular, autumnal. Skyline Drive is packed today. Some guys playing Frisbee out on the lawn, and they'll be in Scott Stadium later today for Wake Forest and Virginia. Interesting matchup, and I know you think it all starts with the quarterbacks.
Well, it has to, and you talk about Virginia, and they've started 2 players this year at quarterback. Michael Rocco was the starter a year ago, started 13 games, but he's given way to Phillip Sims, the transfer from Alabama. Phillip Sims will draw the start today. He's a multifaceted player. He's a kid that can pull it down and run with it. He's got a great big arm. His ability to throw the football down the field, but you see here his ability to take it and run with it. He needs to find an area where he can throw it to a spot. They want him to anticipate some of his throws. We'll see if we get some of that today. But Phillip Sims still developing as the quarterback here at Virginia.
It'll be fun to watch him, Arch. Meanwhile, on the other side, Tanner Price, you think is going to take a bigger role today?
Well, Tanner Price is a guy that they've really had to load a lot more on top of. Because of some injuries, Tanner Price will be expected to run the football a little bit more today. They looked at Tanner maybe running 4 or 5 times a game. We may see him run as many as 12 or 15 times a game. But the guys that they'll count on to maybe offset some of what Tanner Price has to carry are the running backs. And Josh Harris, an outstanding runner. Believe me, you give this kid daylight, he'll take it to the house. And he's got a counteractive guy, maybe the Thunder in the lineup, and that's DeAndre Martin. His ability to run the football, the younger player, but he's got great speed as well, but he is a Thunder-type player. So two-headed monster there.
Should be fun to watch. Wake Forest and Virginia coming up. Back to you, Jeff.
Gentlemen, thank you. Let's bring in Kelly Nash. Kelly, it's really been a challenging couple of weeks for Jim Grobe at Wake Forest. He's handling it all in a unique way, isn't he?
He has. Well, after those suspensions and now arrests, Coach Grobe and as well as the AD Ron Wellman are reaching out to fans, boosters especially, through email. Here's a little excerpt for you. We want to assure you that every decision we make in our football program and throughout our athletic department is with the future and well-being of Wake Forest and our student athletes at heart. Winning is very important, but it will not be pursued at the expense of our integrity. Now, Riley, you have to commend him for how he's trying to manage this program.
Well, you do, and I was around Coach Grobe, obviously, for 4.5 years, and he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And one thing when you're recruited by Wake Forest, Ron Wellman and Jim Grobe, they both tell you they want to develop you as a young man into a good husband, a father, and a good citizen after college. And I think if you have arrests or guys that are putting themselves before the team and really breaking the rules, this is one thing you have to do. And they really are not – there's no leniency in a Jim Grobe program, and I commend him for the way he's handling it. I mean, they're taking – they took 5 of their starters off the field because of this, and he's setting the tone and saying, look, if you're going to put yourself before the program, there's going to be consequences, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I commend him, and knowing Jim Grobe, it doesn't surprise me.
The game kickoff at 12:30. Wake and Virginia, 2 teams looking to find their stride. So are Boston College and Georgia Tech. Let's take a look at Atlanta, the big game today. The GT on the field, painted pink. Remember, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the Yellow Jackets honoring that. Both teams really need a win. BC is 1-5, Georgia Tech 2-4. The Yellow Jackets had a bye last week. It's their first game since Al Groh was fired as defensive coordinator. Kickoff at 3 on Regional Sports Network. Check your local listings. Dorsey, both teams really need a win. They pile up yards a different way. BC through the air, Georgia Tech on the ground. Does either team have an edge?
I don't think either team has an edge. I think for me the most interesting thing is going to be what defensive coordinator or new defensive coordinator Charles Kelly does with this defense that has struggled, especially against the pass. We're going to find out in a hurry how they do against this pass game, with Georgia Tech being toward the end of the ACC in pass defense. But you think about Chase Reddick, Alex Amadon, and Andre Williams, the tailback. They got their hands full, so we'll find out early if they can stop their offense.
Want to get in one note we just saw late last night about Boston College. Great news. Mark Herzlich tweeted out last night that he had a new set of scans, and he's still cancer-free, so it's good to see him healthy and succeeding in the NFL. Well, it's the time of the show when Riley really starts to dread things. During the commercial break, he'll start to sweat, gets fidgety, there's a bit of a tick. It's all because of Saturday selections. Dorsey, Riley, and you, the fans, pick every ACC game. That's next.
What do you call a machine that combines precision-engineered handling, industry-leading power, and a rider-focused design? We call it a Can-Am. From the essentials to fully loaded, you'll find that same combination in every ATV and side-by-side rebuild. And right now, get your own for as low as $149 a month. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
At the Jeep Summer Clearance event, you can make this summer your time. Time to find your power and lose your doubts. Time to steer clear of the ordinary and make room for the extraordinary. Just like the deals you'll find at the Jeep Summer Clearance event.
You can't keep greatness in a box, so we won't. The ACC mobile app presented by Carrabba's. Imagine seeing this on this. That's greatness. For the ACC schools you live for, it's the app you can't live without. Available on your iPhone, iPad, Android, and Nokia Lumia Windows Phone. The ACC mobile app, live games, videos, scores, stats, news, and greatness. Visit theacc.com/apps. I'm Jeff Fischel with another ACC Now and Then brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. True freshman Stephon Diggs showed why he's on his way to a record-setting career at Maryland, taking the opening kickoff last Saturday 100 yards for a score. Another Terp, Boomer Esiason, set 17 school records before becoming the most prolific left-handed quarterback in NFL history. Go to rubytuesday.com/ACC to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to the ACC Football Championship.
Brought to you by Ruby Tuesday. Enjoy our lobster and sirloin dinner only $14.99 for a limited time.
Good afternoon, Chase Sapphire. This is Stacy from Springfield.
Oh,
Hello?
yes, I didn't realize you'd be talking to an actual person.
You don't need to press 0. I'm here.
Reach a person, not a prompt, whenever you call Chase Sapphire.
Week 7 was a good one for the guys to make picks. Riley went 3-1. Dorsey went 4-0. So did the fans. So add it all up. Dorsey, the front runner, 13-6 this year. The fans, 12-7. Riley 9-10. Don't worry, there are still 29 conference games to go, but I'd still rather be 13-6 than 9-10.
I would too. That's not my choice.
Let's make the picks for today. First of all, Dorsey, Virginia Tech at number 19 Clemson. Who do you like?
I like Clemson. They manhandled Tech the last 2 games. In particular, in the second half, they've outscored them 41-0.
I like Clemson too. I think they're coming off this bye week, having a healthy and ready Sammy Watkins along with that offense. It's going to be too much for VT.
Okay, Boston College and Georgia Tech both desperate for a win. Dorsey, who do you like?
I'm going with the rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They've had a week off to prepare. I think the option gets going, and I think the defense makes some improvements from earlier on in the season.
You were just talking about Chase Reddick and how good he can throw the ball.
They're going to stop him today.
I'm going with Chase Reddick. I'm going with BC. This is where I make my ground up against Dorsey. But I think their offense is going to be the deciding factor against a new defensive coordinator and struggling defense.
All right, let's talk about your alma mater, Wake Forest and Virginia. Dorsey.
I'm going to go with Virginia. I think they finally get their quarterback issues straightened out and they get back on track today at home. I like Virginia. I want to see them get back on track.
Well, Wake's coming off a bye week. I like that. It's offensive coordinator Steve Lavotsky. I know during the off week he just sits here and dreams up a new stuff to put in. I think Tanner Price has a kind of a breakout day today. I'll go Wake Forest.
By the way, the last 6 games in which Wake Forest has had a bye, they're 5-1. So Jim Grobe uses his time wisely. North Carolina State back on the field after the big upset against Florida State at Maryland. Dorsey, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Maryland. I know last year was probably one of the greatest comebacks in ACC history when NC State came back. But I think this year, with Maryland's defense improving the way they have, they're going to find a way to slow down Mike Glennon and NC State.
I don't think so. I think Mike Glennon is coming, getting into a great rhythm, and that offense is really hitting its stride. I think their offense is going to be too good. Even though it's a good defensive front for Maryland, I think the offense is a deciding factor for NC State.
All right, now let's get into the rivalry games. The one at Wallace Wade Stadium. North Carolina and Duke, both teams 5-2. Dorsey, make your pick.
I'm going to go with UNC because of all the things we talked about earlier with their run game, their offensive line, Gio Bernard, Bryn Winters playing exceptionally well too. So I'm going to go with UNC.
I think this is a new Duke team. I think they're a resilient team. I think they'll realize what they did last week on the road. They can do week in and week out on the first half. I think they harp on what they did well, come in, surprise North Carolina, and get a win.
And the nightcap tonight, Miami and Florida State. Dorsey.
I'm going to go with Florida State. I think this is that one game where they start to put their foot on the gas and don't let up. And especially with Stephen Morris not playing and Miami's defense not tackling very well, I think it bodes well for Miami.
I agree, Doris. When Miami's going to have to rely on their run game with a new quarterback, you're going against Florida State's defensive line. I don't see anybody run on Florida State. I go Florida State in this one as well.
All right, so they agree on Florida State and Clemson, but 4 other games could really help you catch up, right?
I'm hoping. I'm
or put
thinking
them
outside the box. Or
put
me in a hole.
Keep it here on the ACC Digital Network, brought to you by Ruby Tuesday all day for the best highlights and analysis. With Dorsey Levens, Riley Skinner, I'm Jeff Michelle. Thanks for watching.